I have showered. I washed my hair twice, I conditioned it, I washed my face twice, I put product in my hair, and I used the blow dryer provided here in my own personal bathroom to dry my hair. I drew on eyebrows. They might actually be even this time because it's the first time I've had access to a mirror other than the tiny little one that's stuck to the back of my phone case. Thanks, Ryan's mom. One of the best little gadgets I could possibly have asked for. Yeah, I feel a whole lot better. So let me back up and let you know all about how cool yesterday was and how crazy today was. Yesterday was the Halong Bay tour, the day-long tour that I booked through the hostel that I stayed at in Halong Bay. So just as I said I would, I got up at 6:30. I got up at 6, had breakfast at 6:30, did a video chat with my mom and dad for Thanksgiving. It's so strange, the 12-hour time difference still just keeps throwing me off. So it was 6:30 p.m. on Thursday for them, and it was 6:30 a.m. on Friday for me. Anyway, they told me about Thanksgiving, and it was nice to chat with them while they were both cuddled up on the couch under a blanket together, talking about how cold it was there. And then I left for the tour in pretty good spirits. And it was more than I could have asked for. It was $28 for like a full day tour of Halong Bay, which I did not know this. There are 1,969 islands in Halong Bay. Some of them have names based on how they are shaped or where they are placed, and others do not. It is home to 14 endemic flora species and 60 endemic fauna species. So that means there's 14 species of plants that live there and nowhere else in the world, and 60 species of animals that live there and nowhere else in the world. We did not see any of them because it was very cold. But when we got off the little shuttle bus that brought us to the marina and stepped onto the boat, we did not know what to expect. Like, I had read things about booking tours on Halong Bay. There are so many different companies that do these tours. There's tons of boats in the marina, and you never know what you're going to get. We stepped onto this boat, and it was like, oh, it's an inner compartment with sliding doors. So even though it was very cold out, we were sitting sort of in an indoor restaurant-like space with big giant windows on all sides so we could look out and see and be relatively comfortable. And everything was decorated in red and gold and like a dark lacquered wood. It was clearly an older, rickety boat, but as far as what we could have gotten for the money, it was pretty impressive. We did not expect that. And they served free tea, and then they had coffee and drinks for sale all day and snacks and stuff. And they served us this lunch, which we had told that lunch was part of the tour price that was included, but we did not know what we were going to get. They brought dish after dish after dish to the table of like awesome food. It was so good. There was some kind of like tomato grilled fish thing that we just all went gaga for, and prawns, huge prawns, and steamed clams, and just all kinds of yummy things. Some stuff we couldn't identify, but after 3 or 4 hours already in the bay at sea, taking photos and everything, like, we were starving. And when I say we, I mean the new group of friends that I made on the bus ride there and on the boat. I met 2 girls from the United States. Raleen is from Nashville, and Caitlin is from Salt Lake City, Utah. But they went to school together, they went to college together, and they've been best friends for like 15 years, and they travel together once or twice a year. So this was their big trip for the year. They went all over Thailand, and then they came down to Vietnam to see Halong Bay, and they're going to Ho Chi Minh City next. They were hysterical. Clearly, Raleen was like the leader of our little group. She was a teeny tiny little thing. She was really pretty. And at first I didn't want to talk to her because I was kind of intimidated by how pretty she was. And I have been road ugly for a while now. I was not looking my best yesterday. So I don't know why. I don't know why I was intimidated, because later on we all sort of touched on the point that, like, the people who travel are the people you're going to have the most in common with when you're traveling, right? Like, if I saw a girl like her on the street in Boston, she could be completely vapid, but she's here, right? Like, roughing it with the rest of us in a hostel or whatever. She was really cool. Caitlin was really cool. They both had really interesting stories. And then they had already met up with a gentleman from the UK named David, who was hilarious. He told the funniest stories. And then two younger girls who were on their break from Denmark. So after high school, they do like an extra year of high school. So instead of graduating at 18, they graduate at 19. And between the ages of 19 and 20, most of these people have a gap year or two, like a lot of Scandinavian countries do. So that was Freya and Anna. So they were doing their gap year, traveling all over the place. They were the most mature, wise, funny, um, interesting 20-year-olds I've ever met. So the six of us formed a group, which was perfect because each table in the restaurant held six people. So we just kind of banded together and spent the whole day like laughing and joking with each other and telling our life stories and talking about where we've been and where we want to go and giving each other travel advice. And yeah, it was fun. I mean, the bay was beautiful, even though it was cold and overcast. There's nothing like it in the world. You've never seen anything like it. Like, when you go to Vietnam, it's absolutely one of the things you must see. I'm so glad that I braved the local bus twice to go there. Um, yeah, it's just remarkable. So they do all kinds of things on the tour. They bring you to this enormous cave that's all lit up inside. I tried to take pictures, but photos just don't do it justice. I mean, it's beautiful. But there's a gajillion tourists everywhere, right? So all the boats dock at once, and they just sort of lead this huge group of us. I mean, there was like literally 1,000 of us. The tour guide told us that the cave can hold over 1,000 people at a time. Like, that's how large it is. And so they march you through and tell you about it and bring you to the top. It was, I think he said 700 steps total. It's like 400 to go up into the cave and then another 300 to go back down to get around to the dock again. So we did 700 steps through a cave. Treacherous, beautiful. And then, what else? There's like a lookout point. Again, it's like 1,000,000 steps. They're super steep. They go all the way up to this gazebo at the top of one of these islands. And you can look out and take photos. And that was absolutely incredible. And then they gave us a half hour to kayak around this like group of islands that are all very close together. So they only had tandem kayaks. So obviously Anna and Freya, who were traveling together, went together. And Raleen and Caitlin, who were traveling together, went together. So that left me and David. So I was like, all right, David, like, do you want the front or the back? I've gone kayaking quite a bit. And I know I'm pretty good at steering. So if you want, like, I'll take the back. And he was like, oh, you can steer from either the front or the back. You don't, and I'm like, like, no, the person in the back steers the boat. So if you want to be the fearless leader, go ahead and get in the back, but otherwise I'll do it. And he was like, all right, I'll sit in the back, but we're both going to steer. And it ended up being hilarious because he clearly had no idea what he was doing. And like at one point he challenged the other two pairs of girls to a race and we lost miserably and that was hysterical. We all six of us got extremely soaking wet in this like stinky cold water. And most of the people that I came with or that I made friends with had changes of clothes with them. I didn't think to do that, so I just sat in my wet jeans for the rest of the trip. But again, it didn't even matter. It was just, we had so much fun. It was really, really beautiful, just breathtaking. You have to see it. I'll post pictures, but I mean, Google Halong Bay, Halong space Bay, Bay, and just look at photos on Google of people who are better photographers than I am, who have taken pictures on nicer days than yesterday was, because it's just stunning. I was there. So afterwards they were like, oh, we're gonna go out to dinner, do you want to join us? And I was like, I have to catch a bus at 6 o'clock because I have a flight tomorrow at 6 a.m. So no, it was nice hanging with you all, but I have got to go, bye. So I took the arduous taxi ride to the bus station and then the arduous bus ride 3.5 hours back to Hanoi. The bus actually did not take 3.5 hours. It took about 4 hours this time because of all the stops it made. But I was looking, I knew which bus station to get off at because that's where I had boarded the bus, so I was better at it this time. And I had a full charge on my phone, so I was able to read my book the whole time. Thank God. Still, we got back very late. We got back at like 10-ish, 10:15. And then I was at the bus station and I called an Uber to bring me to the hostel that I had previously booked in Hanoi. And the first Uber could not find me for some reason. I'm like, I'm at the bus station. Nothing. The second Uber took forever to get there, and I had to pee so bad. And the bathrooms in the bus station are closed after a certain time at night. You can't get in. I had to pee so bad. And I am PMSing right now, and I was tired from a long day, and I had just been on that bus ride, and I was like, so upset. When the Uber finally showed up, I was like, I don't know why you couldn't just pull into the parking lot. What is this? Why is this so hard? Like, why is this so difficult? Have you never picked up somebody at the bus station before? And he was really nice, and he just ignored me, and then I just broke down crying in his back seat. I was like, what the fuck? And I was hungry. Like, I had had that awesome lunch, but that was at like noon 30 or 1 o'clock, and by now it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So I'm like, well, that's fine. I haven't checked out the Hanoi night market yet. I will go there. So I had the Uber drop me off at the night market, and I got swindled into going into a restaurant and eating Vietnamese hot pot. Like this little 15-year-old waiter guy was standing out front, like bringing people in off the street, and like the hot pot thingies on each table were so interesting, and I've never done it before. So when he was like, oh, you come sit down, I was like, all right, I'll give it a whirl. And the next thing I know, I'm paying a ridiculous amount of money for a ridiculous mountain of food that I could not possibly finish on my own. It was really good. It was really good, but it was too much food and too much money, and it was too late at night, and it took too long. And I didn't get to check into my hostel until a little after midnight. And I went right to bed with my clothes on. Like, the only thing I did was take my contact lenses out. I didn't want to wake up my dorm mates because it was so late, and I had to get up at 4:15. So I got 4 hours of sleep. The next morning, I got up at 4:15, and the nice lady who runs the hostel was kind enough to get up with me and keep me company until my taxi came. My taxi rushed me to the airport. Every time you get in a vehicle in Vietnam, whether it's a motorbike or a tuk-tuk or a taxi, it's like a chase scene from a fucking action movie. Like, these drivers do not give a fuck. Like, the rules of the road are the largest vehicles have the right of way, and everything and everyone else has to move for them. They do not honk their horns in anger here. They honk their horns to let the vehicles in front of them know that they're about to pass. So everybody is honking their horns constantly. Nobody even jumps. Like, when I'm crossing the street and these horns are honking, like, I'm like, ooh, 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 you know, I jump. You hear a loud noise, you jump. Nobody moves. Like, nobody even bats an eyelash. There's so many horns going off all the time. Every bus you're on, like, it's impossible to sleep because they're just like, meh, meh, every time there's a vehicle in front of them. So you're, like, dozing off, and then you're just like, meh, 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 and you're like, whoa. It's so annoying. The tolerance that people over here have for annoying noises, like, I can't even get into it. Like, we were on a bus today, and there was like a snap on one of the little curtain thingies that kept like swinging and hitting the window, just dink, 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 for 4 goddamn hours. And the person to whom the curtain belonged in the seat next to it never attempted to fix it. It was driving me bananas. Like, between that and the honking and the way that the languages sound, I cannot get used to everyone's languages over here. They're so different, and they seem so harsh to my ears. I knew I had to prepare myself for it. I knew I was going to hear a lot of it. I'm in their country, it's their language, whatever, but geez, when they're yelling at each other across the street and the horns are going, like, my dad and my sister would hate this place. They would just, their heads would explode. Anyway, so I had my chase scene taxi ride to the airport. I got there in plenty of time to catch my plane. It's not like other airports. Like, they don't give a fuck. Like, they're just like, yeah, you go through, get on a plane, we don't care. Got on the plane, and I was so tired. I had hit a wall. Like, I've been tired before where I'm like, I really need to sleep. This was the kind of tired where I passed out. It was different than sleeping. I passed out on the plane, just sitting up straight, like this. And, like, at one point, the flight attendant came over to ask if I wanted something to drink, and she had to, like, shake me awake. That's never happened, ever. Not without, like, drugs. I had no chemicals in my system, and I'm a super light sleeper, and this was just like, I was done for. She asked me if I was okay. I was like, yeah, I think so. I couldn't understand her. I didn't know where I was. I was like, what? Luckily, the flight was only like an hour and a half. It flew me to Dalat, which is a really pretty place. It's in a weird geographical location in Vietnam where the mist that comes down off the mountains every day makes the temperature like spring all year round. So it's known for its flowers. There are tons of flowers, and it's in the mountains. It's like in a valley in the mountains. So there's just mountains stretching out as far as you can see on all sides of you. There's just nothing but mountains, and they go from like green to blue to purple to black, in the distance, and flowers everywhere. It's really lovely, and it was colonized by the French once upon a time, and so all the architecture is sort of like French colonial or whatever, and it's just it looks like you're in the Swiss Alps. Like if it weren't for the people and the garbage on the streets, you would think you were in the Swiss Alps, but it's clearly Vietnam. So I got to the Dalat airport, and they have a shuttle bus that says it will take you to city center, and you pay like a tiny fee, and you get a little ticket, and you get on the bus. And like the lady who sells you the ticket and the driver and everyone on the bus keep saying city center, city center. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to city center, and then I will figure out what the fuck to do from there. So I get on the bus, and it drives us to this random hotel in the middle of nowhere, like on a hillside surrounded by flowers and forests. And the bus driver makes everybody get off, and then there's a little like 10-seater van across the parking lot that everyone rushes over to and piles into, like refugee immigrant crisis style. Like they are sitting on each other's laps, they are packed in, they are sitting on suitcases, and I'm like, is this going to city center? No one is listening to me. At one point, like some lady was trying to help, and she was like, where are you going? Where are you going? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have an address. And the driver of the van was like, you have no address? They didn't tell you the address of your hostel? And I'm like, I'm not staying in Dalat. I just need to go to city center so I can go get some information. And I'm trying to explain this to him. And he literally like shoved me out of the way and started to close the van door. And like the lady that I was talking to was holding my phone because she thought that I had an address on my phone. So she had taken it out of my hand. And I just was able to snatch my phone out of her hand just in time before the door slammed shut. And then he shoved me again, ran around to the driver's side, got in, and drove away. I was the only person who had gotten off the bus and hadn't either gone into the hotel or gotten into the van. So now I'm standing in a hotel parking lot by myself, nobody else around, and I just got shoved by a stranger and left. So I did what I have been doing this entire trip. I sat down and cried. I think I have done that at least once a day, every day since my plane landed. This was a big, ugly, tired, PMS-y cry, though. This was like a sobbing like a child, sort of. I just sat on the marble steps of this hotel and just wept. I was like, everybody's so mean. And finally a bellhop came out of the hotel in classic bellhop uniform, which I thought was kind of funny. Like he had like the red velvet jacket and the little fez, whatever that is. And he came out and he's like, why you cry? Why you cry? And I'm like, they just left me. Everyone's mean. And he's like, where are you going? And I'm like, I don't know. City center. I have to find the bus station. And he was like, hold on, hold on. And he went and got his friend, and his friend came over, and he was like, where are you going? And I was like, city center. And he hands me a helmet, and he's like, here, get on the back of my motorbike. And he was kind enough to take me on his motorbike down to city center while I was like sniffling and sniveling the whole time. It ended up being like a 6-minute ride. It was pretty quick. So he drops me off at this really cute little coffee shop and takes off. And I'm like, thank you, I'm sorry, thank you. And he's like, yeah, okay. Because in Vietnam, they don't show emotion. They don't believe in crying or yelling or frustration or anger. Like, it's really embarrassing to them. Like, even to save face, if you ask someone for directions, rather than tell you that they don't know what you're talking about or they can't understand you, they will just point. Like, oh, it's down there, you keep going, you're fine. They have no idea. They will point you in the wrong direction 50% of the time. It's all about saving face. So this crying, crazy tourist girl, they were like, we need to do something about her. So he brought me down to city center. He takes off. I'm like, thank you. I go to the coffee shop, still crying. I sit and have a coffee, still crying. I look up where the bus station is, and it's actually, there's a whole system, so you have to like find a tourist office that's trustworthy, because there's a ton of bus scams here. people will sell you a bus ticket and like usher you onto a bus, and then it drops you in the middle of nowhere, and they'll just take your money and leave you. There's bus scams, there's train scams, there's a scam where like some guy will ask you if you want to play cards with him, and then he'll take all your money. Like there's just, you have to be super careful. So I was paranoid. Like there's a million tourist bus stop agency thingies around the area because Dalat is a beautiful place and they run tours and it's near to a lot of different things. So a lot of people use it as a stopover on their way to somewhere else. And there's even, I read an article about how there's like one or two really good, well-known, trusted travel agencies. And because there's no like patent laws or not patent, but copyright, whatever, trademark laws, other tourist agencies have popped up with similar names. So I knew I was going to go look for the Sin Cafe tourist office, but there are 10 of them and only one is the real one. So I sat in the coffee shop, I did my research, I found the right one, and I started to walk there. But we're in the mountains, and my GPS does not work so well. So the map literally keeps doing this spinny thing on the screen of my phone, and I'm like, where do you want me to go? So I'm walking, and it keeps telling me more time. Like it started out saying it would be a 20-minute walk, and then I walked for like 15 minutes, and it was like, you still have 20 more minutes. Like, I think I kept walking back and forth past the place and just didn't notice it because the sky opened up and it started to pour down rain. Luckily, I had my waterproof backpack and my waterproof phone case, so I was able to duck under an awning and adjust everything so that I wasn't going to get my stuff wet. But I didn't have a poncho or an umbrella, and I needed to book a ticket. I know that the last bus leaves at 1 p.m., and by now it's 10 a.m., so I'm like a little nervous that I'm not going to get on this bus, right? So I keep walking in the rain, pouring down rain. I finally find the place. And I'm like, do you have any seats left? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, is it 99,000 Vietnamese dong, just like it says on the website? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, awesome. So she sells me a ticket. And I'm like, where is the bus station? Do I need to take a taxi there? How long does it take? And she's like, no, the bus picks you up right here. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. That's awesome. Thank you. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, is there someplace I can go have a coffee while I wait? This is the theme of my vacation, by the way, sitting in coffee shops, drinking Vietnamese or Laotian or Cambodian coffee. It's all so good. I'm addicted to it. And she's like, yeah, right across the street. And she points, and there's this other lovely little cafe. So I go and sit there, and the girl at the table next to me is clearly by herself. She's reading a book, and she is eating a big, greasy grilled cheese sandwich with French fries. And the waiter came over to me, and I was like, I will have what she's having. I could use some comfort food right now, and that looks amazing. So she heard me say that, and she started a conversation with me, and she ended up being, I didn't get her name. I wish I had. She ended up being like a turnaround for my day, my conversation with her. I just told her, I unloaded, I was so hungry for like human contact. I was just like, and then this happened, and then the man shoved me, and I was in a glass box of emotion. Like I was a wreck, and she just listened very nicely. And then she sort of just put things in perspective, She was talking about her travels and the fact that she's traveling with her boyfriend, and they've been fighting a little bit over where to go and how to get there, and it's been a little bit challenging for her. And I talked to her about, my boyfriend and how he's at home. He couldn't come with me, and it's really sad for both of us that he couldn't be here, but I'm having an adventure, and it's important, and all this stuff. And it was a good, meaningful conversation, and she was so kind. She chatted with me for like 2 hours while my phone charged in the other room, and while I ate my food and redid my hair because I looked like a drowned rat. And, by the time I got on the bus, I was like, all right, I got this. I'm going to Mui Ne, and that is where I booked a hotel to sit on the beach for 3 nights. Psyched. So I get on the bus, and I'm like, oh, it's a 4-hour ride. I can sleep. So I started to nod off after the first, 20 minutes on the bus. Nope, no sleeping on this bus. No sleeping at all. It is $4.60 for a 4-hour amusement park ride. Not even an amusement park ride. Like one of those shitty carnival rides somewhere down south in a podunk town that you're pretty sure the ride is held together with duct tape and hope. This was crazy. Through the mountains of Vietnam, just twisting, turning, winding, crazy roads, and we're right at the end of rainy season, and the road in so many places gets washed out because of all the mud and the silt that the hills are made up of. It's this rust-colored, fine, silty soil that even though the jungle has taken over and there's so much vegetation, even the most like tenacious, twisted roots can't hold this shit together when the rains come. And I say roads, it's one road. There is one road from Dalat to Mui Ne. It's not like you can take a detour. So there were so many times when we had to slow down or stop for like paving equipment because they were putting the roads back together. And and also cows, water buffaloes, goats, and chickens. Like just huge groups of them standing on the side of or in or crossing the road. The scenery was absolutely beautiful. I tried to get some photos and videos, but the ride was so bouncy. They put me in the very back, like they Rosa Parks'd me because I was by myself. Everyone else was in like either a couple or a group. So luckily I had the whole back row all to myself. It's like the 5 seats that line the very back of the bus, but it's up on a platform higher than the other seats. So the roof is like 8 inches over my head, and every time we hit a bump, like I would hit the roof so hard my teeth would clack. At one point I was like, I think I chipped a filling, and like I just kept thinking like, keep your tongue in your mouth, Benson, keep your tongue in your mouth, because I was just picturing myself biting it off. It was so bouncy that like the digital clock on the front of the bus kept changing the time every time we hit a bump. There was no sleeping to be done. Like my arms are tired from holding the roof, alternating arms to hold the roof of the bus so that I wouldn't keep bonking my head on it. It was 4 hours of that. The beautiful scenery, like amazing farms, like farms and rice paddies, just like you'd picture with the people in the cone hats working in the fields, and tarps laid out on driveways with like just big, thin, spread out piles of like berries and crushed up somethings to dry, like left to dry in the hot sun. And then the cows are the color of shiny new pennies. They're this beautiful shiny copper color, these cows, and they're not like any cows you've ever seen. They're like bony and long-legged, and they have like those snuffleupagus eyelashes, you know, and they just look dumb and happy just walking across the road. And like mud-caked, clay-caked water buffaloes hanging out by the side of the road, with the white birds on them picking the bugs off. And then little herds of goats. They're so cute, just like tick, 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 across the road. And yeah, it was unreal. I couldn't sleep because of the bumps, but I was glad because I'm glad I didn't miss any of it. Still, it was rough. It was probably the most stressful part of this whole trip because like 4 hours on a crazy amusement park ride of a bus with like sometimes a sheer cliff face on one side and like a sheer rock wall on the other, going around hairpin turns. And this bus driver was working on a personal best. Like he was trying to set a record for how fast he could get from Dalat to Mui Ne today. And I think he beat his own record. He did not give a fuck. Got to Mui Ne, got to my hotel, and it's awesome. They upgraded me. I didn't even ask. They upgraded me to the honeymoon suite. So it's a beautiful room. I have 2 balconies, one that overlooks the pool and the courtyard, and one that overlooks the ocean with palm trees. And like the sun was just setting when I got here, so I got to stand out there and watch the sunset. And I was looking, and I could see all these like sparkly lights on the ocean, like mostly red blinking sparkly lights all over the ocean. I'm like, what is that? So I walked down to the beach just now. They're the fishing boats. We're right near the fishing village. These people that live here make a living on fishing, and they moor their boats every night, and each boat has a little red blinking light. It looks like Christmas out there. And you can see the big city of Phan Thiet off in the distance on the horizon, all sparkly with lights, and then palm trees and a perfect Cheshire Cat smile moon right above them. It was beautiful. And then there's the food court, which is literally next door to my hotel. I didn't even plan that. I had no idea it was going to be there. So it's like a mall food court, except it's outdoors. Everything is bamboo and like tiki style, and there's lights everywhere and tons of different tables, all different levels, you know, like just it's so beautiful. And surrounding the whole thing are all these different like mini restaurants, so you can walk around and see what you want and then pick from the menu, and then you go sit at a table with like a little number and they bring you what you want. So I had basil lemonade, non-alcoholic, no booze for me today, basil lemonade and tofu and cashew vegetable stir fry. It's so good. They're so good. The basil lemonade was to die for. I wish I could have sucked down like 5 more of those. And just a lovely atmosphere. They're playing really good music. And it's right down the street from my hotel. My hotel is so pretty. I sat outside by the pool after I finished eating and was just like Googling stuff to do tomorrow, like best massage places, best manicure places, best beach resorts where I could maybe like do a day pass and like sit on a beach and have drinks served to me. That's the shit I want to do. So I found a whole bunch of stuff that I can fill the next few days with that will take absolutely no planning, no bumpy, awful bus rides, no crazy travel, no discount possible scam, weird setup tours, like just stress-free and relaxing. Oh, and there is a family of dogs here. There's a mommy, a daddy, and 2 little puppies, and they are pets. They all have little collars on, and clearly the owner of the hotel and the people who work here all care for them very well. There's little dishes with food in them and stuff. And the 2 little fuzzy roly-poly puppies come right up to you and play. They're so cute. I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. This place is amazing. It's so beautiful. I took a glamorous, glorious shower. I ate good food in a really great atmosphere. I walked on a beautiful beach with all kinds of lights everywhere and a full moon over the palm trees. Somebody was having a bonfire a little ways down the beach and having a big party with music going, so I got to sort of peek in on that. And then I got to come back here and sit by the pool and research shit on my phone and play with puppies. And now I'm going to bed early. It's like 9:30 and I'm going to bed. I'm so happy. This is great. I worked really hard to get here and I'm so excited about it. Anyway, I've been rambling for over half an hour. I'm really sorry. Thanks once more for paying attention to a very long video. I will try to keep them short from now on. I love you guys and I miss you, and I will check in briefly another time.